and I have the pleasure of introducing it to 2026 on SOS. First appearance, first episode, Randall Hamilton. Randall, how you feeling, man? How you feeling about the season? How you feeling about the floor seats?
Well, thank you, Stacey, for having me. Like, I'm very glad to be here on the first episode of the Floor Seats. Excited to be able to share this platform with you guys. Looking forward to be able to talk coop with you guys on this platform. It's definitely been very interesting in this NBA season, and now that the trade deadline is shaped up, now we're gonna see what happens in the buyout market and see see who's gonna separate themselves for the rest of the way.
Absolutely, and that's a great segue to what this episode is going to be about. It's all about the trade deadline, giving our reactions to certain moves, giving our winners and losers. Of course, I got to get your opinion on James Harden going to the Cavaliers. But first, let's just start off with probably one of the most intriguing moves that happened at the deadline. The Wizards acquiring Anthony Davis from the Dallas Mavericks. That's the big piece. But then when you think about what the Wizards have done previously, landing Trey Young, you pair that with Anthony Davis, the fact that they got Alex Sarr, a young talent on his team, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, who they just took in the draft. What's going on with the Wizards? Are they actually trying to build a winning culture? Are they trying to climb up the ranks? Unfortunately, more than likely, they will not make the playoffs. As of this recording, they are 13 and 36. I think they're second to last in the East. So this year is pretty much done. It's in the books. But in the summer and beyond, how you feeling about the direction the Wizards are going through right now?
Well, as far as in the immediate future, I'm very curious to see if if the Wizards are gonna do the same strategy that the Toronto Raptors did last year, which was when the Raptors traded for Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans. They decided like he was already injured, and they decided to hold him out the rest of the year, and they basically shut him down the rest of the year and allow him to come back next year. And then now you see Toronto, they've had the season that they've had where they've been one of the main surprises teams in the NBA this year. Toronto had been struggling the last several years before that. So I'm wondering if the Wizards are with bringing in Trey Young. And I mean, they really didn't have to give up that much for Trey Young. So I think that was a huge steal for the Wizards, getting him just to like have like some sense, just to have some sense of credibility. And that's what he and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis brings championship experience. He brings that leadership and championship experience to the Wizards, and really like the Wizards. I mean, they've been one of the bottom feeder teams for so long since the Bradley Beal and John Wall era. Now Alex Sarr and Keyshawn George, they've definitely shown some flashes, this season. Now the Wizards, now they still, I can't see them being like a top four team in the East or anything next year, but I can see them being like in the play-in mix next season, and and who knows, like they could end up being challenging for like a sixth spot to be out of the play-in. I can see them being that type of team, and if they still have, and who knows what they do in the offseason, there's still a possibility with that. They still may get another draft pick this year, so I think the Wizards, they seem to be a team that's heading in the right direction.
Let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks a little bit now. They are in this mode where it's Cooper flag. That's the staple. That is the focus. In my estimation, I think Kyrie is out of there this offseason. Do you
Mm.
like the direction that they're going in as far as turning it down? Let's center everything around Cooper Flag. We got a whole bunch of draft picks. Let's try to move on from Kyrie. Let's probably try to move on from Clay. Do you like that direction for the Mavericks?
I mean, I can see them moving off of Clay. Like I could see a scenario where maybe there could be some value to keeping Kyrie. Now, it also depends on whether the Mavs ownership's gonna want to keep paying Kyrie salary. So like you do need a couple of veteran players like just to like make up the salary difference, because I mean you do that's because every owner has to have like a minimum salary as well as a maximum salary that they have to pay. So so since they have gotten off of like, because Anthony Davis is going to be making like an upwards like 50 and almost like $60 million towards the end of his contract. So like the Mavs definitely needed to move off of that financially. Let's say they do move off of Kyrie, are there still going to be like enough like veteran players around? Is there still going to be enough pieces around Cooper Flag? Are you gonna flip Kyrie to put enough pieces around Cooper Flag? That's mainly the $1 million question as to what the plan is. Where like, let's say if you do move off of Kyrie, what are you gonna get in return? But Dallas, as far as building around Cooper Flag, that's definitely something that they need to do. Like he's definitely their franchise cornerstone.
We'll see what happens with both sides going forward. But let's take a step back. Let's look at the whole picture, the whole trade deadline. There were more moves out there than the Wizards and Mavericks. What was that one move that was most intriguing to you, that one trade?
Well, we're gonna get to the James Harden trade at the end, so like I kind of was, so I would say that that was the most like intriguing trade that to me came out of nowhere. But
Mm,
since we're gonna save that segment for, we're gonna dive deeper into that trade at the end. But another intriguing trade I thought was Kobe White from the Bulls going to the Charlotte
yeah.
Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets, I believe, right now are on a 7-game winning streak. They have one of the longer, I think they have one of the longest winning streaks in the NBA currently right now. They've been on a tear. And then Kobe White, like he's been one of the mainstays on like a Bulls team that stayed in the middle of the pack. And his name has come up in trade talks for the last several years. Because he has been the type of player that's like the quintessential, like that can be like a quintessential 3-and-D guy, and that can add value to teams that either are on the rise or maybe could be a contender. So right now Charlotte is right now outside of the play-in because
Yeah.
they dealt with the injury bug. But for the last month, Charlotte has been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. So you add another piece like Kobe White, you add that with LaMelo Ball, who's healthy and finally starting to get back to the level that to the All-Star level that he was playing at. And then you still have Miles Bridges there, and then you have Con Kneppel, who was one of the rookie of
Oh
the
yeah.
year candidates, who's come out of nowhere. But yeah, he's been now. I mean, Cooper Flag. We just talked about Cooper Flag, but I mean, you can make an argument that between him and VJ Edgecombe, about who's been like the second best rookie. I mean, this has definitely been a promising rookie class, big picture. But I think Charlotte, they and Charles Lee, you can see like he's starting to get some of the buy-in, from his players. I think this is his second year as the Charlotte Hornets coach. So there seems to be like a vibrant energy with the Hornets right now. So I mean, I think that's one of those, and I think getting Kobe White and adding him to that mix, that is definitely going to be one of those moves that I think can if Charlotte can keep this momentum going the rest of the way, they could be a dangerous team, for one of those top seeds, like if they, end up in the play-in and end up, making their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And don't forget, Kobe White played at North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's back in Carolina. He's back in North Carolina. But I guess the $1 million question is, with Kobe, because right now it looks like they're going to hold out Kobe White until after the All Star break because I think he's dealing with an oblique injury. Then, like you said, you got Lamelo Ball, you got Con Kneppel, etc. As of this recording right now, they're only one game back of the play-in spot. And you said that they're streaking. Do you see them gelling together in time to sneak into the play-in this season?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility. If you look at some of the teams that, I think as it stands right now, I think the Bulls might be one of those teams in the play-in mix. I think the Atlanta Hawks are in there as well. I think they can definitely overtake those teams. Those teams did a lot of moving off of salary at the deadline. So those teams were more sellers more than buyers at the deadline. So I mean, I think you could see those teams trending down, and since Charlotte's a team that's trending up, they could. I could see a scenario where they could challenge a team like Miami or even Orlando, towards the end of the year for that those to get out of the play-in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, let me bring up a move that I thought was intriguing. I want to get your analysis about this. And you already brought it up in the beginning, and that was the Boston Celtics getting Vucevic. We talking about Boston Celtics team without Jason Tatum, they are third in the Eastern Conference. Jalen Brown is playing like an MVP candidate. And there's always that factor that Jason Tatum can return in time for the playoffs. Now let's just imagine that for a second. Jason Tatum come back, You got MVP candidate Jalen Brown. You got Vucevic, who's been a solid center the last handful of seasons. Do you see this team getting out the East in that scenario?
Let's say if Jason Tatum didn't return, like I think Boston, I think they could be a team that could. I think they could win a playoff series.
Mm.
But I don't know. I don't know if they would necessarily get to the conference finals. Like I mean, now in the regular season, like they've been very, very good to like they've been able to be sustainable without Jason Tatum and like and Jalen Brown, um, and like a lot and all their like Peyton Pritchard stepped up for them. Even but I mean I know they just traded for Vucevic, but even Nemias Queta has stepped up for them too. I think Joe Mazzulla deserves a lot of credit. I think even
Yep.
I think Sam Hauser's been solid for them too. So I mean, they've gotten a lot of contributions. Jordan Walsh, he's been one of their young. He's been one of the young guys that's developed for them. So I mean,
Yep.
they do have a solid team. But it's going to be tricky because even if Jason Tatum was to come back at the end of the season, he still has to like are they going to be patient enough to like deal with like because he still has to overcome physical and mental hurdles. So a lot of times, like even if you are back physically, like, you still have to get that mental confidence thing. So it's like, can a guy really come back from a severe injury and like develop his confidence and getting back within the do or die playoff situation? Like that's a tough ask, man. Like
Hey,
I think the Celtics.
let me tell you the separation with Jason Tatum and the rest of the guys that you're referring to. Jason Tatum is from St. Louis. We are mentally tough people. We come back from anything and
Salute.
everything. Yep.
Like I think Tatum will come back and like he'll be fine like as far as like getting back to the same player, but it's just like I think there's just always going to be an adjustment period for that. So it's just like he is human, so like he still has to overcome that. But like, I mean I think he'll get back to the like I mean like especially the way like guys have recovered from Achilles injuries. Like Kevin Durant, he bounced back pretty fine from an Achilles injury, and he still has enough. He's still very skilled enough to where like even if he did lose some athleticism from the injury, like he still has enough game to where like he's still skilled enough game wise to where like he'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, every trade deadline, we always hear these articles and we always see these videos from these different shows. There's always a winner, there's always a loser. So, in your estimation for the 2026 NBA trade deadline, NBA trade season, who was your winner and who was your loser and why?
I would say the biggest winner probably would be the Cavs, just because not in addition to getting James Harden, they also got Keon Ellis, and they also got Dennis Schroeder in the deal, and I think all those guys are pieces that are going to be able to contribute in the postseason. And also, I think one thing to also mention about Cleveland has been the emergence of Tyson. Like, I mean, he's definitely
Oh,
been
Jordan
stepping up.
Tyson, yo.
Yeah, Jordan Tyson, like he's definitely stepped up. And I think that's where they made it more. That's where I felt like the organization felt a lot more comfortable trading Darius Garland because of his emergence. So I think, but I think we're talking about James Harden, but I think getting a playmaker and the way Donovan Mitchell's been on a tear, like I think they're a little bit more. They're a bit more opposed, and they still have Jared Allen too. So I think making those moves, like getting a 3 and D guy like Keon Ellis, having Dennis Schroeder, coming off the bench, to provide some tenacity and playmaking. So I think the Cavs wanted to emphasize getting some playmaking around Donovan Mitchell to be able to set up in the half court. So when you look at the potential lob threats with Allen and Mobley, I think that can be a dangerous ball club going forward. So I think they're the biggest winner. As far as the biggest loser, I would actually say probably the Golden State Warriors. They made a move. They traded Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield to get Porzingis, who's only played in I think he's only played in 17 games this year for the Hawks.
Mhm.
And Porzingis is basically he is who he is when it comes to his injury history. Like he's one of those guys you just have to deal. I mean, I mean, he can be effective, and he is like a Warriors type of big that like Warriors typically love like bigs that can shoot. It's just he's just always had trouble staying on the court throughout his career. So then I think so, and then now you move off, and that's the return you get from Jonathan Kuminga. It's like
And no Jimmy
I th-
Butler.
yeah, no Jimmy Butler. Yeah, Jimmy Butler's out for the year. So I mean, it's not really looking to, and and they were, and the Warriors were rumored to be in the Giannis sweepstakes, but basically from what everything we're hearing is like the Milwaukee just doesn't like what Golden State has to offer.
It looks like that dynasty is really over, and they will have to start from scratch. 'Cause Steph and Draymond's not gonna be around that long. I don't know if Jimmy Butler gonna be there past 2027, so they're gonna have to wait to the future.
And yeah, and he's I think he's gonna be like 37 coming off of that
Right.
ACL injury. So I mean it still remains to be seen whether Jimmy comes back as the same guy next year. So
Yeah. Right.
there's
They might
a
not
lot
even
more.
keep Porzingis.
Yeah, I think I think he signed. I think he's still signed for like another year or two. I think because of I think because he signed an extension. I think with Boston like after they won the chip.
Yeah, but I'm like you said, he can't stay on the floor. So I mean, we'll see what happens with them. But I agree with both those picks, both those winners. Well, you talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers getting James Harden. That is the true centerpiece. Now, I did say that I think the big winner out that trade was Darius Garland. You get free from the Cavaliers, go to a Clippers team that's been trending upward, and you would now you should flourish as a scorer. He should.
He's had his issues with the toe injury, but like when he's healthy, I think he can be a complimentary piece next to Kawhi. The only thing is, I would like it better if they still had Zubats, because I think I mean, because the Clippers trade Zubats, like I think that's going to be a big
Yeah.
loss for the Clippers. Now,
And
I do like Benedict Mathurin, like I do like him a lot. Like I think he can be he's a solid piece for the Clippers, but at the end of the day, like Zubats, I think last year I thought he probably was an all-star snub. I think you could have made the argument that Zubats could have been an all-star last
oh,
year. So
absolutely.
and I mean, he's really, and I think Zubats has been consistently one of the more underrated bigs in the league. So I think that's a huge loss, even though, even though the Clippers do get, but I do agree with you that the Clippers do get younger in getting Darius Garland. Now he is going to be making a lot of money these next couple of years, but but I do think he does have he's still young enough to where he has the upside to where like it could be worth that adding him can be worth its while for the Clippers. But I just think as far as their prospects this year, I just think you just hope that this doesn't mess up the momentum that they had because the Clippers were one of the better teams in the league for the last month, especially in the West. Kawhi has been playing out of his mind for basically since Christmas.
Right. Right. Exactly. Now, let's go ahead and zero in on James Harden with the Cavaliers. I said that this will be successful on their part if he really becomes that point guard.
Yeah.
He right now he's averaging 8 assists at like 8.1 assists, something like that. And then you're on the team that has Donovan Mitchell as the number one option. You got two bigs that know how to run the floor and get those and to beat those lob threats. In your mind, what will make this trade for the Cavaliers and for James Harden successful?
I think especially this particular season, given with Jason Tatum being like he may or may not be available for the playoffs, with Tyrese Halliburton for being out for the season this year. I think the opportunity is now to get to the NBA Finals for the Cavaliers. This is a team that won 64 games last year, and they were the number one seed. And I mean, they were pretty much embarrassed by Indiana. Like the Pacers kicked their ass. So like it was a gentleman sweep that wasn't close. So I think the Cavs like they're a team that like they've been a good regular season team, but they have to prove themselves. They're still an unproven playoff team. Like I think they have to at least make it to the conference finals. But I think but with James, but I think we're getting a player that like James Harden, like that's been that's been hopping from team to team, basically trying to win a championship ever since he left Houston. Like, let's just call it what it is. He's bailed on all these. He's bailed on multiple teams, and has had sour exits along the way. That's pretty much been. That's pretty much like
Yeah.
that reputation doesn't come out of nowhere. But at the end of the day, like he does, I do, like he does want to be on the championship caliber team. So I mean, I do think the Cavaliers at least have to get to the NBA Finals this year in order for this trade to be worth it.
Yeah, we shall see. It's going to be a great race in the Eastern Conference, but this was the end of the debut episode of the Floor Seats show dedicated to basketball here on Stacey on Sports. I'm your host, Stacey Carter II, joined by that guy, Randall Hamilton, the guy. Follow us everywhere on social media and on YouTube at Stacey on Sports. Keep a lookout for our basketball content, and baseball will make its way. About to get into spring training. Stay tuned for those episodes. But until next time, take it easy. Stacey on Sports, the now of sports media.